Join us. We'd rather face the defending champs or the top seed Houston Rockets in the playoffs. Find out Wednesday right here.
Mitchell.
Yeah, first
Coach Mackey product.
Oh, look at that connection.
I'm still trying to figure out why the FBI is involved. I didn't realize that the FBI needed to be paying attention to college basketball. Maybe they should, if they had been paying more attention, they wouldn't have screwed up our election.
Just makes me smile that Charles Barkley doesn't hold back, saying the FBI has more important things to do than investigating college hoops. Max, Barkley have a point?
I'd watch Charles Barkley read the telephone book.
Me too.
Do they still have the telephone book? I don't even know that.
Yes, they do. My parents have one. He's just he's so likable.
Yes. He's absolutely right about this. Now, let me say, whataboutism is a dangerous game to play. In other words, there's some work being done over here. Well, what about that? Why isn't there work being done over there?
Yeah.
That's not a good enough reason not to do the work over here. This happens with, like, arts in the schools, right? They're not there anymore because funding is limited, and they go, well, the kids need to read. Can't put the money in the arts. What about this, right? Okay. So I understand the point. Why is the FBI bothering with sports, college sports? There are more important things for them to do. There are more important places for them to put their resources. That is true, but that's not really the problem. The problem is, and this is the reason there is corruption, because there is money there. As soon as you point a camera towards something, start selling advertising time, and people are interested. As soon as you start charging money from tickets and the place is packed, but you're not paying the players, the problems start right there. The reason coaches' salaries are now inflating is because there's increasing more and more money in the game. So how do you get a competitive advantage? It goes to the coaches' salaries and under the table to players. The problem, the seed of the corruption, is the corrupt nature of the NCAA's philosophy in terms of college sports. The overly controlling attitude they adopt and rules they draft about college athletes. That's why there are crimes being committed that the FBI is looking into. That's why, if you take that away, the onerous rules, then there are no crimes being committed. Then the FBI doesn't need to waste their time looking into college sports. As the rules are currently constructed, I suppose they do. So Barkley is right about that. But let's get to the heart of the issue. It's the NCAA's rules regarding college students making money, period.
Well, the NCAA is big business. They're crooks as far as I'm concerned half the time. At least some of them are. They're hypocritical. They get to operate with impunity. And anything that involves potential oversight in any way is something that I'm in support of. You know, a lot of times, I think back to the days of the 30s and beyond, Max Kellerman, where, you had the mob brought down because of income taxes or whatever. I mean, it gets to a point, whatever way you can get cats, get them. You understand what I'm saying?
Watch The Untouchables.
That's right, exactly. The Untouchables, I loved it. I loved it with Sean Connery and Kevin Costner, those boys. Kevin Costner's actually been on this show before. Love Kevin Costner. Yes. The point that I'm trying to make to you is that, listen, we're talking about it could be racketeering, it could be embezzlement, it could be a lot of things. If the one thing that I do like about the FBI's involvement in all of this is that it reminds the NCAA and all these other institutions that there is something above you that you have to watch out for. And you're going to have to answer to potentially. And I always think that's a good thing. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. You have to make sure that people understand there is a hierarchy. There is a way that you can get squashed. There's an institution or an entity that can bring the heavy hammer down upon you just like you're quick to bring down upon anybody else. So when Charles Barkley says what he says, I emphatically disagree with him. And the reason why I emphatically disagree with him is because as he's covering this NCAA tournament, doing an outstanding job with Kenny Smith, Ernie Johnson, and the rest of the crew, they all do a great job. The bottom line is what he's basically talking about is just mind your business and leave us alone to enjoy the event. Well, the problem with that is that's what institutions like the NCAA bank on. People having that kind of mentality, which leads to them conducting themselves in crooked and hypocritical fashion. And anytime you have an institution like the FBI, even though there are other things they could be doing, and there are things that they could be doing more thoroughly that are far more important, in the end what it comes down to is there is something there to remind you you are not as powerful as you think you are.
But you know what, Steve?
We are, and I like that.
You brought up the Untouchables. That's an even better analogy, I think, than you realize. Because the Untouchables is about prohibition. The sale of alcohol was prohibited. So there became an enormous, what they call black market.
That's right.
For alcohol, right? And the way to get rid of it is to legalize it. Because once you legalize it, the crime is it's no longer a crime.
No longer a
so
crime.
it's wasting all that time and effort and money. And in the case of prohibition, bloodshed. I mean, you know, all those things. You legalize something that should be legal, right? Well, okay, that's actually a very good analogy for the NCAA right now. There are crimes being committed, not all of them, because they've been scandalized in other ways, some of these institutions. But in terms of paying players and benefits that players get, there are crimes being committed because they have made unlawful, they have prohibited activity which should not be prohibited. I mean, even if you don't want the players to make money directly, they can't make money off of their likeness. Why? Why must the NCAA control every facet of the player's life that way? It's absurd. Get rid of it and no FBI investigation.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. But there's something else that we need to talk about. You got the AAU programs. You got folks who oversee AAU programs. You got, you know, connections that are being made where people are having the license to ingratiate themselves with kids at an early age, kids 9, 10, 11 years of age. You're ingratiating yourself with them and their families. You're influencing, leaning them towards one place or another. Somehow, some way, you're facilitating profits for yourself along the way for programs and institutions that you gear those individuals towards. And not only that, you're having scapegoats that, dare I say, are a bit discriminating, because what you have is a situation where I'm certainly not trying to point out any names because I don't know, but you have big time programs that have white coaches. You got these assistant coaches who are primarily black, who are used as conduits to these kids, where you're communicating with them, you're ingratiating with yourself with them, cultivating relationships with them and their families, and then all of a sudden down the pike when they come to the program, those same big time coaches who happen to be white, they're at arm's distance. They have absolutely no relation to this whatsoever. And then people who are in the throes of all of this stuff on their behalf end up getting scapegoated and sent down the river.
That's right.
You got to pay attention to all of that. The NCAA is aware of it. They don't care. They sit there and they partner themselves with whoever they want. They're getting paid hand over foot. And as a result, it's a level of exploitation that's affecting the minority community indiscriminately.
And why is that
discriminately,
happening?
rather.
My point is, you're right about that. Why is that happening? Because when you point the camera and charge commercial time, when it becomes an event, you have commodified the players.
Right.
The kids as early as 9, right?
Right.
Because you're thinking, well, okay, they're going to be a commodity. Actually, they get commoditized at that point. So the question is, if they're not getting paid, if they're not able to profit, where is the money that would be going to them actually going? It's going to go-betweens that you just brought up. It's going to the institution. It's going to the NCAA, right? It's actually going to other players and other student athletes in less profitable sports as well. The point is, they're taking that child who will be a young adult soon enough, what should be their money, and distributing it to various other people, everyone except the kid. So that is the problem. That's the problem. And it goes to the heart of what Charles Barkley is talking about. If they changed their hypocritical and really irrational rules, there wouldn't be an FBI investigation.
That's true. But what Charles is trying, which is why I vehemently disagree with my buddy, Charles Barkley, is because he is of the mindset that the FBI should mind its business. And I am of the mindset, no.
Right.
The FBI, it is their business, because the NCAA is an institution in the United States of America that believes it gets to operate with impunity and a lot of time conduct themselves.
They get federal funds, and
they get federal funds as nonprofit. They benefit and they exploit. And somebody needs to be present to remind them they are not above the law.
Yep.
And the FBI's presence alone does that, and I support it.
I'm of the opinion, pay those players. All right, coming back, it's no secret that Kevin Durant and the officials have gotten along this season, but don't worry, KD has an explanation for his madness. That is coming up next. And the Patriots have a losing record in Super Bowls with Rob Gronkowski. So does Tom Terrific really need Gronk to succeed next season? Update on Max's cliff? Okay, we'll check in on that coming soon.
I don't have to tell you, this